Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Robo Celestial here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 11 of What If Deku Had the Sharingan. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. I wanna be my own kind of hero. A newfound determination seemed to embed itself into Shoto's words. A wide smile graced itself upon Izuku's face. Shoto! Endeavor's loud exclamation of his son's name caught the audience's attention. Immediately, he started monologuing in a way that was mistaken for a pep talk by spectators. Neither fighter paid any mind to the outburst. Their surroundings were forgotten, leaving the only thing left to exist be this very moment, this very fight. Incredible, Izuku murmured in awe at the sight of his opponent's left side bursting into flames. Ice sprouted forth from Shoto as he exacerbated his blaze. The next thing he knew, his ice was shattered, and Izuku stood before him with a broken arm. Without a second thought, Shoto let his fire swirl before having it consume the battlefield as Izuku let loose another limb-shattering punch. Before either move could make contact, cement walls erected themselves from the floor to work as a buffer. Both teams' offensive pushes blew out the multitude of barricades in their way as they met in the middle. Neither boy was unscathed from the blowback of their titanic assault on each other. Shoto fought back against a force, pushing him closer and closer to the edge of the arena, using walls of ice in an attempt to slow his fast-approaching doom. Chunk after chunk shattered from the force of his body, being thrown into them until he gradually slowed to a stop, barely within the arena limits. Shoto looked forward to find his opponent but was met with a dense smoke surrounding him. The air cleared, and before him stood Izuku. Arms bloody, swollen, and unusable with one foot outside the arena. He won. Everyone in the crowd ceased cheering when Shoto stopped his colossal attack just as it got started. His quirk deactivated, and his movements stilled with eyes glaze over. For a moment, tension and confusion swept the audience as neither boy moved. Just as quickly as they stilled, Izuku started shaking. His breathing hitched uncontrollably, and he desperately seized hold of his body, nails drawing blood his arms. Ungodly screams emitted from Izuku's mouth as he curled into himself and dropped to the floor. Only a handful of spectators outside of UA staff had any clue what was going on. Ochako, All Might, and Katsuki's hearts dropped as they all had the same thought. He used his quirk. Midnight called the match a draw and rushed in to help him. Once she was in the arena, Cementus closed them off from any prying eyes as Eraserhead called for a last-minute intermission, and Shoto was carried off stage. Midoriya, everything's alright. Mito Midnight's attempt at soothing was inaudible over Izuku's intensifying screams and was swiftly halted by the boy's violent flailing. He wasn't letting up, no matter how hard she tried. Midnight had no choice but to use her quirk on him. The muffled screams from within the newly formed cement dome stopped, and the next thing spectators saw was Midnight carrying out Izuku and into one of the hallways. It wasn't until Izawa said something that the stadium dispersed for a 15-minute intermission. The entirety of the hero corps sat wordlessly soaking in what they had just witnessed. Katsuki's knuckles turned white from balling up his fists in his lap, and an angry scowl stuck on his face. Out of everybody that he knew, Izuku was the one who deserved to suffer like this the least. The events of the USJ attack played out in his head again. It shouldn't have been Izuku. Anybody but Izuku would have been fine. Bakugo, Ochako's voice caught his attention. It almost sounded like she was pleading for him to do something. When Katsuki looked up, he was met with a mixture of confused and worried expressions. When he locked eyes with Ochako, they made a wordless agreement. Both of them carefully stood up and walked to the infirmary room. Soon after, they were followed by Tenya, Sayu, and Minoru. No one made a sound during their trek. Each step they took felt like molasses. Anxiety ran high for all of them. Minoru couldn't help but fidget as the tension built. When the group finally reached Recovery Girl's room, all except Katsuki were surprised to see a large, skeletal blonde with sunken blue eyes sitting next to Izuku. The group of teens walked in on Recovery Girl, scolding the lanky man. Katsuki barged in without incident, but when Ochako tried to follow suit, she was stopped. "You lot get out. We don't want to overload Midoriya when he wakes up." Recovery Girl tried to shoo them out of the room with her hand as she dismissed them. Ochako tried to speak, but was cut off. "He's going to be fine. Now out. Out." Recovery Girl tried to dissuade the younger girl but was unsuccessful. As her classmates walk into the hall, she persisted. "Wait," Ochako was interrupted again with Recovery Girl going on a tirade trying to get her to leave. "Let her stay." The nerd needs to wake up to someone that knows what he's going through, and I still have a tournament to win." Katsuki vouched for her. To everyone's surprise, Recovery Girl, begrudgingly, allowed Ochako to stay. As the matches went on, Tenya came to visit her and Izuku. Every time he did, he explained what happened and how everyone was doing up in the bleachers. He and Ochako would chat for a bit before he left to watch the next match. Eventually, Shoto woke up. He didn't say much and took off after being informed that he lost his next fight by default. Ochako stayed waiting, worried, unsure what she should do next to help her friend. Ejiro visited between one of the matched, much to her surprise. He told her that Tenya had to leave for a family emergency. He tried to strike up a conversation with her, hopefully, lighten her mood, but nothing seemed to work. Her somber expression never changed. "Midoriya's gonna be alright." Ejiro said, "The only person as manly as Midoriya is Bakugo. Whatever happened, he's strong enough to get through it. Besides, if he sees you all upset, he'll worry about you instead of worrying about himself." A reassuring, confident smile plastered itself on his lips as he spoke. Ochako couldn't help but smile at that. He was right, of course, Izuku was strong, and she had no doubt he would overcome any hurdle in his way. And the last thing she wanted to do was worry him as soon as he woke up. "Thanks, Kirishima. I'll make sure he has nothing to worry about but himself." Her cheerful demeanor seemed to be back as she pumped her fist in the air and smiled. With that done, Ejiro left to watch the next upcoming match. Ochako was determined not to let Izuku see her so upset. She needed to cheer him up. Before we get back into the story, I would like to say that we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes over the hard facts of the anime presented. Now, in case you guys didn't know, we have a third channel called We The Celestial Naruto What If. We The Celestial Naruto What If mainly focuses on our Naruto What If series. If you are interested in content like this, please go check the description below or click the eye icon in the top right corner. Now, with that out of the way, let's get back into the story. When Izuku woke up, the last phase of the festival way already coming to an end. Ochako explained everything to him that he missed while he was out. Katsuki was able to blow Ejiro away after a war of attrition. Tenya won his fight with Shoto by default. The other boy had still been stuck under Izuku's hypnosis by the time the match rolled around, and they couldn't wake him up. Momo won her match against Mina by playing the long game and waiting for a chance to wrap Mina in an acid-resistant cloth, rendering her immobilized. During that fight, Tenya had left due to a family emergency and had to forfeit his third-place position. As Ochako spoke, her entire body animated. It was comforting for Izuku to see her like that. A faint smile graced his face as he watched her enthusiasm. It was a welcome distraction. And that concludes our contest. The first-year winner of UA's sports festival is Katsuki Bakugo of Class A. Almost as if on cue, Present Mick's voice boomed through the room once Ochako had finished talking. The award ceremony was held later that day. Katsuki stood atop the first-place mantle with Momo to his right and Mina to his left. Clear blue skies, an exhilarated crowd filling the stadium, and Katsuki right smack in the middle of it all about to be handed his first-place medal. It sounded like everything he dreamed today would be. It wasn't. This wasn't how he wanted to get here. This wasn't how his rise in fame was supposed to start. Izuku was supposed to be standing to his right. Izuku was meant to have second place. No one deserved the pleasure of being second to him, except Izuku. None of this was right. This wasn't a win. It was a reminder. He wasn't good enough during the USJ attack. This was his punishment. The two girls by Katsuki's side gave him worried expressions. They didn't know him exceedingly well, but they knew enough to tell something was wrong. His downcast face was hidden in shadow as he stared, fixated on a particular spot on the ground. He didn't notice Midnight and All Might starting the award ceremony, the crowds cheering, or the other placeholders receiving their respective medals. The familiar scent of caramel and an unsettling sizzle filled the air as All Might walked up to him, first-place medal in hand. Black fumes emitted from Katsuki's hands. Well, you lived up to your promise. Wonderful." All Might struggled to keep his media persona up as he spoke. His smile nearly faltering for half a second. Katsuki was a worrying sight right now. It reminded him of the battle training they conducted earlier in the year. "All Might," Katsuki started, voice low, steady, and laced with venom. "This win, it doesn't mean squat." He looked up at his heroics teacher with an expression that made the man's blood run cold. All Might nearly froze in fear from the scowl on Katsuki's face. Doesn't matter what anyone says. The damn medal's just garbage. Without thinking, Katsuki grabbed the winning medal with still smoking hands and crushed it. The metal melted and warped from the mixture of heat and pressure he was applying. Ouyog! Katsuki screamed as he hurled the now deformed gold medal to the ground. It made an unsatisfying tink when it hit. I'm gonna kill those stupid League of Villain bastards. You hear me? You're dead, you hand-covered freak. His howling declaration took everyone by shock. The stadium stilled, as no one dared make a sound after that display. After a minute or so, All Might was the first to move. He picked up the discarded remnant of Katsuki's medal and placed it around the seemingly now calm boy's neck. If you won't accept this as a badge of honor, wear it as a wound. So you don't forget. All Might's voice was calm, steady, and robust. Katsuki didn't bother trying to fight back. He was still seething, that much was obvious. Leaving right now was much more important to him, though. There were too many emotions buzzing around in his head. The sports festival came to a close with All Might giving an awe-inspiring speech about everyone doing their best and how bright the future is with such dedicated heroes in the making. Almost everyone ate it up and soon excused and forgot Katsuki's outburst. Class 1A, on the other hand, had too much new information to digest after everything that happened. No one wanted to talk on the bus ride back to campus. Tension ran thick and an uncomfortable feeling settled in fast. Izuku sat next to Katsuki with Ichaku and Sayu nearby. Everyone wanted to know what happened. Not just to them, but to Tenya's brother as well. The class was worried, but they knew prying would be too much. When they got back, the first thing Eraserhead did was send Izuku and Katsuki to the school's guidance counselor, Hound Dog. Once he was sure they were gone, he went on with routine announcements. Ichako barely paid any attention as their homeroom teacher spoke, her mind wandering to the three boys who seemed to be going through a trifling ordeal. As the two best friends silently trudged through the halls, neither one wanted to be near the other. All-encompassing guilt swallowed them. Each one blamed himself for what happened. They couldn't even bring themselves to look at each other. Eventually, the inevitable end of their journey came, and the two of them stood in front of the guidance counselor's office. "Quit standing out there and come in. Aizawa told me you'd be coming." They heard Hound Dog call them from in. He must have smelt the two boys. After being prompted to, Izuku and Katsuki entered. The two awkwardly stood around until asked to take a seat by the beast man in front of them. "You two have been going through a lot, huh?" Hound Dog's question was rhetorical. Both boys knew that. When neither one responded, the older man continued. "From now on, I want the two of you to visit me regularly. Once a day, I'll have appointments with each of you. Midoriya, I also want you to see someone outside of school. Get started on some medicine, if you need it. When hero internships start, both of you check in with me at the end of the day. Understood?" Hound Dog got simultaneous nods from the two students before dismissing them. When Katsuki and Izuku got back to the classroom, everyone had already left. They picked up their things and followed suit. To their delight, not that Katsuki would ever admit it, Ijiro and Ichako were waiting for them by the gate. It was nice to have them around. They kept the conversation going without the boys needing to put the effort in. It was a needed distraction. Ichako told them that they had the next few days off as she and Ijiro blabbered about anything and everything they could think of. The two boys were relieved to hear about their time off. They wanted a couple days to decompress and compose themselves. Eventually, their happy little walk came to an end, and they all had to go their separate ways. When Izuku got home, his mother cried and held onto him for dear life. She'd seen what happened during his fight with Shoto and had been beyond worried ever since. She ended up getting a call from the school to reassure her, but it didn't help. During the few days off that the students had, Ingenium's run-in with the hero killer Stain made headlines. Ingenium, Tenya's brother, was paralyzed from the waist down. Even if he recovered, he'd never be able to do hero work again. Izuku sent Tenya a few messages to check up on him, but he never heard back. Eventually, All Might called and recommended that they go to Dagaba Beach to train. Izuku greedily accepted his offer. Not only happy for something to do, but excited about getting to spend time with his idol and new mentor. A lot of his time off ended up being spent training with All Might. They ended up getting to know each other a lot better in the short amount of time. Therapy ended up becoming a regular thing for him, as well. After Izuku's first appointment, they set up a schedule twice a week and put him on sertraline to hopefully help with the trauma and new nightmares. Thank you all for watching the video to the end.